The Procrastinator's Creed. I don't know if you've seen this or heard of it. Let me read out the Procrastinator's Creed. Number 1. I believe that if anything is worth doing, it would have been done already. Number 2. I shall never move quickly except to avoid more work or find excuses. Number 3. I will never rush into a job without a lifetime of consideration. Number 4. I shall meet all of my deadlines directly in proportion to the amount of bodily injury I could expect from missing them. Number 5. I firmly believe that tomorrow holds the possibility for new technologies, astounding discoveries, and a reprieve from my obligations. Number 6. I truly believe that all deadlines are unreasonable, regardless of the amount of time given. Number 7. I shall never forget that the probability of a miracle, though infinitesimally small, is not exactly 0. And number 8. If at first I don't succeed, there's always next year. Number 9. I shall always decide not to decide, unless, of course, I decide to change my mind. And last of all, number 10 of the Procrastinator's Creed, I shall always begin, start, initiate, take the first step, and/or write the first word when I get around to it. Now, when it comes to the topic of more time, I do have a sneaking suspicion that if we're honest with ourselves, not having enough time 24 hours in the day, that may not be the exact issue. Yeah? I mean, the issue is I think probably we just don't know how to best spend our time. It has to do with priority. So this is very clearly the case if you are a time waster. If the 10 points of the Procrastinator's Creed hang up on your bedroom wall and that is just you to a T. It's not that you don't have enough time, you're just good at wasting it. But for some of us, it's more complicated than that. You know, like you do look at your day, right? And for some of you, it's like, you know, I don't waste time. I don't really procrastinate. And yet I really have so much to do that I don't have enough time. Well, on that, I kind of want to push back a little and say, is that really true? I mean, is it really true that it's still an issue of you don't have enough time? Or maybe, as I said before, it is the issue of priorities. I mean, just imagine this for a moment. Imagine this. You have only 1 year to live. You know that in exactly a year's time, on August the 24th, is it today? Right? 2012, you will just drop dead, all right? You know that for a fact. Would you really still then look at your day and say, yes, I have to do exactly the same as I have to do now without any change? You wouldn't, would you? Most of you would be like, why am I at uni? Right? Why am I finishing my 5-year civil engineering degree? What a waste of time. I'm out of here. Right? Wouldn't you change what you do? Wouldn't you spend more time with your family and friends, write that novel you've always wanted to write? I don't know. See, it's actually false, isn't it? To believe that everything we think is important, that we must do, is actually important. We have no time because I reckon a lot of us can't make those distinctions. We don't know what really is important, and that's why we can't prioritize our time. Now, I'm going to pose a question to you that I'm hoping that we'll solve today as we look at the Bible, and that's this. What if Jesus can change all that? Yeah, what if relationship with Jesus can actually change our view of what's important so that at the end of it, we find that we might have more time? Now, this is going to be important to you whether you're a Christian or not. I mean, if you're a Christian, you maybe never thought that your relationship with Jesus has anything to do with your time or how you sort out your time. But if you're here as a guest or you're not a Christian or you're not really sure where you are, then maybe you never thought that Christianity might have such wide and vast and practical implications. So I hope you get something out of it today too. So we had that passage read out to us. If you want to keep track of where I'm going, I've just got 3 very simple points. We've got 2 sisters. They're both friends of Jesus, but they had vastly different ideas about time and how to use it. Now, there's actually 3 characters in the story, but we're only going to focus on 2 because they're the ones who speak. So there's Martha and there's Jesus. So I want to just turn our attention to the first character, Martha first. Why don't you just follow as I read that passage from the beginning again. So the first sentence there. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Now, if I asked you which character or which of the sisters you identify with most in this story, I'll probably get the same response from everyone, yeah? Almost everyone I talk to identify with Martha. Busy, fretful Martha. Especially you older siblings. Who's a big brother or big sister? You know what it's like. I mean, who hasn't felt, even if you're not an older sibling, who hasn't felt the way she's felt? I mean, group assignments. Yeah, group assignments. You're the one keeping everything together, everyone else is slacking off. Yeah, you feel it. That's how Martha felt. You go on a road trip with your friends. That's a sure way to test friendship, isn't it? You go on a road trip and you're the one doing all the research and all the planning. You've done the itinerary. You know, you've worked out how many Ks you're going to drive today. The rest of the group, they're just complaining, telling you, chillax, come on, we're on holidays. And you're like, no, we got to make this, You know what it's like. But then you look at the story, look, the first sentence, it's actually Martha's home. Right, this Martha's home. She's the hostess. Now, there's certain expectations when you're the hostess, especially if you come from a Middle Eastern or, for me, an Asian culture. Right, we're face societies, right? That just doesn't just mean I've got a big face, which I do have, but the whole idea of keeping a respectable kind of face, that's really important for us. And so you remember who watched MasterChef? MasterChef. The Dalai Lama challenge. He had such an honored guest come to our country, take part in some inane, stupid show about cooking. But you see how much effort they spent, making sure everything was perfect for the Dalai Lama because he's such an honored guest. And, half of them were breaking down in tears. The other half couldn't contain themselves and were wetting themselves because they got to meet the Dalai Lama. That's how exciting it was. That's what, this is the honor of hosting, isn't it? So we can understand that Martha, being the hostess, having Jesus as her guest, she wanted to do her best, didn't she? It was a dinner party. It had to be the best it could possibly be. She wanted to make Jesus happy. And then she's got this sister, Mary, who's there. It's her home too, right? But at the very least, she's a helper, a co-host maybe. I mean, of course she would expect Mary to help out in the kitchen. But as we read, it's a bit surprising because this is not how the story plays out. Because Martha, the busy one, isn't the one that is commended, is kind of encouraged by Jesus. Jesus is going to turn the tables around. Now, why is that? Why is that? Well, I want you to notice, though, you might not have noticed it when you first read it, but what's behind Martha's fretfulness? What's behind her fretfulness and busyness? It's this, isn't it? She has to assume, and she is assuming, that in order to please Jesus, she needed to perform her duty as a host. You got that? In order to please Jesus, she needed to perform. And in this case, as a host. Now, we'll see why that's wrong in a moment, but for now, I want to say that this is a bit of a window to us. Remember, back to the time issue. As I said before, the issue is not really, we don't have enough time, hours in the day. It's probably for most of us, or perhaps all of us, we can't prioritize. Now, let me ask you the question. Why can't we prioritize? Isn't it, in large part, because so many of our priorities aren't chosen by us, but are chosen for us? Have you ever thought that? Have you ever looked at your life and its busyness and thought, why am I doing this? I can't stop doing it. I need to do it, but why am I doing it? How many of you are doing university degrees that you would not have chosen for yourselves, but your parents pressured you into? Yeah, all you Asians are nodding, aren't you? Yeah? I mean, why in the world would you do accounting? Rather get an enema. All right. Not that I've had that either. How many of you deep down inside would love not to have a casual part-time job that you're working on the hours that you're not doing uni work? That, if you could just live off youth allowance and Oz study, that'd be fine. But you feel like you have to have that job because if you don't, you don't have the extra cash. You can't keep the car. You can't keep up with the lifestyle. You can't go out and party. You can't save for holidays. Now, let me ask you, who says you've got to have that lifestyle? Do you see what I mean? I mean, there are plenty of people in the world, the majority of the world, who don't have disposable income. Well, who says you've got to have it? Who are you following? I mean, do you have to have a car? Do you have to spend money in order to have fun? Do you have to take overseas holidays? Do you have to update your wardrobe periodically? I mean, who says? Do you see what I mean? Whose standards are we actually living by? Now, I reckon this is the heart of the issue. That for almost all of us, other people determine what's most important, don't they? What are the must-haves in our lives? I didn't choose that. Other people have chosen it, and I want to go along with it. And so what does that make me? It makes me a person, if I'm honest with myself, makes me a person who lives for other people's approval. Isn't it? We want and we need approval from parents or peers or society or culture. And in order to do that, our desires and our priorities are shaped by all those around us. And we feel like we need to perform, don't we? We need to perform in order to have it all. The uni degree, the job, the leisure time, the hobbies, the family, the relationships, the future, the boyfriend, the girlfriend. Have you ever looked and said, I have no time because other people are controlling my time and I feel like I have to live up to something? Do you know the person who's completely secure in who he or she is, doesn't give a rip about what others think? That person will not be a person struggling for time. Yeah, you can imagine it. I mean, it may not be you, but you can imagine it, right? I don't care. I don't need a job. I don't need to live up to my parents. I'm happy with who I am, what I do. That person will not be the person thinking, oh my goodness, I need 5 hours more in the day. See, Martha is like us. She lives by other people's expectations of her. She feels that she needs to perform. And especially in this case, she needs to perform in order to please Jesus. Now, the problem is that she has Jesus all wrong. And that is the most liberating thing about this story. Let's have a look again. The sentence number 40. So we're going to focus on Jesus now. So sentence number 40, Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and said, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? You can hear the bitterness and the anger, can't you? Tell her to help me. Jesus speaks, Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you're worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away. I love how, if you've not read much of the Bible, I encourage you to read it, especially Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, because Jesus' words often do that. He just cuts right through everything. He's saying, you're worried and upset about many things. You see what Jesus has just kind of zeroed in on Martha's problem. Martha's conflict is not with Mary. Martha's conflict is within herself. She's worried about many things. She can't sort out the many things that are making demands on her time. But only one thing is needed, Jesus says. He's saying, let me cut through all of this. Let me cut through what you think is important. Let me tell you the only thing that is important. And he says, look at Mary. She's chosen it. Now, what's he actually saying there? If he's pointing to Mary, what she's doing, what's he saying? Jesus is saying, and this is really the crux. Jesus is saying, I don't need your service. I didn't ask for your busyness. But more than that, he's saying this. You don't need to perform in order to please me. Okay? You don't need to perform in order to please me. You already please me. Because that's not the kind of Lord I am. You already please me. So you got Mary there. Sentence number 39. She sits at Jesus' feet listening. See, this is the posture of someone who already feels completely accepted. Yeah? She's not here to please Jesus. She knows that she does already. So she's here to enjoy Jesus. And Jesus says she's got it right. Now let's take a step back here. Jesus, as he says of himself, and the Bible says, is God become man. He is God incarnate, right? God incarnate just means takes on flesh. And this is a unique Christian mystery that God, the creator of the universe, became a man, and not just temporarily, like other religions have different gods, kind of taking on human form, but then they go back to being God as soon as they can. No, not God, the God of the Bible. God the Son actually became a man permanently. He still and will eternally will be fully God and fully man.